Nick Newman has always been a strong man, always standing firm in the face of challenges and hardships. But when life throws him into a situation he has no control over, where he is faced with painful choices, everything seems to change forever. It is a story of inner struggles, loyalty, and love between family members, set against the backdrop of the haunting kidnapping of Sharon Newman and Phyllis Summers. First trace it all begins when Nick notices the strange actions of Diane Jenkins, a character he never expected to be the mastermind of a serious crime. Diane, a woman who has always been cautious and seemingly integrated into society, suddenly becomes part of a dark conspiracy. Nick decides to follow her after bizarre events occur related to Sharon and Phyllis's sudden disappearance. The deeper he investigates, the more he feels that something is wrong. Diane has been keeping a low profile, but the clues Nick finds start to raise suspicions. He discovers that Diane may know something about where Sharon and Phyllis are being held. A sense of danger begins to mount when Nick realizes that there is a secret area, a place Diane has been frequenting. A dark, well-hidden basement, which could be where Sharon and Phyllis are being held. Unforgettable break-in. Unable to leave the people he loves in the hands of a kidnapper, Nick decides to take action. He breaks into the area Diane has been using, where he believes Sharon and Phyllis may be being held. He feels uneasy when he can't contact Sharon, but his patience is tested when he can't find any clear clues. But, as he enters the secret basement, Nick notices that the atmosphere is different. The small noises and eerie silence make him feel more anxious than ever. He moved closer, and as the lights dimmed, a horrific scene unfolded before his eyes. Sharon and Phyllis, two women he loved and cared for, were chained in that dark room, their bodies bruised and their eyes filled with worry. But things got worse when Nick realized that Diane was not only the one behind this kidnapping, but also had a deeper connection to what was happening. Diane was not a victim in this case, she was the one manipulating it, and this broke Nick's heart. Diane and the unpredictable conspiracy. Nick never thought Diane would go so far. She had always appeared to be a good mother, a woman who could control her anger, and a woman who seemed to fit in with society. But when faced with the harsh truth, Nick realized that it was all a perfect facade. Diane had orchestrated a clever crime, and every event leading up to the kidnapping was meticulously calculated. Diane had not only kidnapped Sharon and Phyllis for personal revenge, but also had a larger purpose in manipulating Nick and those around her. Her goal was to control everything to her liking, so that she could hold power in the Newman family. A painful choice when Nick was faced with a dire situation. He could only save one of the two women in this critical situation. Phyllis, with whom he had an unforgettable emotional and historical relationship, or Sharon, with whom he had shared sweet moments in life. This was not only a decision about life, but also a decision about love and sacrifice. As Nick stood at this crossroads, he recalled the memories of Sharon, the woman who had always been there for him in difficult times. And Phyllis, with her strong character and determination, never gave up. But now, he had to face the truth that he could not save both of them. Meanwhile, Sharon, despite being imprisoned, remained steadfast. She had overcome many difficulties in the past, and now, she could not allow herself to feel helpless again. She felt Nick's presence and seemed to realize that he would come to save her, but she could do nothing more than trust him. Phyllis, with her strong character, was also not resigned. She tried to contact Nick, trying to let him know that she needed his help. But this was not easy when she also knew that a choice would have to be made. Her relationship with Nick could change forever if he could not save her. Sharon and Phyllis, despite their turbulent and tense past, had a deep connection in this situation. Both had been through trials and tribulations, but now they must face another challenge together, and the fight for survival in this cellar will not be easy. Will Nick be able to save Sharon or Phyllis? And will Diane continue to hold on to her plot as things begin to unravel? All will be revealed in the next episode. But one thing is for sure, this story will not just be about saving a life. It will be a battle of love, loyalty, and emotional decisions, things that Nick will have to face in the moment of life and death. In a world full of intrigue and unexplained secrets, the stories on The Young and the Restless always keep viewers glued to their seats. And this time, the story revolves around Nick Newman and the life and death battle between Sharon Newman and Phyllis Summers, bringing everyone into a situation full of tension, confusing mysteries, and life and death choices. Puzzle analysis. It all starts when Sharon and Phyllis are kidnapped. But unlike the usual kidnappings, this time there was no sign of physical attack or immediate violence. The kidnapper, a mysterious figure, seemed to only want to control the two women's minds, creating a challenging game of puzzles and complex puzzles. Sharon and Phyllis, though imprisoned in a dark room, were not physically harmed, but their mental stress increased. Both were forced to undergo distorted talk therapy, where they were faced with bizarre questions and cryptic clues without being able to guess the kidnapper's true intentions. The demands to confront themselves, forcing the two to face deep truths they did not want to remember, made them feel more tired and hopeless. Meanwhile, the villain still refused to reveal his identity. He just keeps insisting that it doesn't matter who he is, that their survival is the only thing that matters. His voice is distorted, only heard as male, making it even more difficult for Sharon and Phyllis to identify their true enemy. Every time he appears, the mind games continue, creating a haunting veil of confusion. His only goal is to survive, not just to escape the dark basement, but to overcome every puzzle he creates. Nick follows the trace. Meanwhile, Nick Newman, the resilient husband and brother, has a strong feeling about Sharon and Phyllis's disappearance. The last time Sharon was kidnapped, Nick had a bad feeling. This time, that feeling rose within him once again. Although there was little clear evidence, Nick felt that something was very strange about the way things were going. With the few clues he has, Nick begins to track Diane, whom he suspects is involved in the case. However, despite his best efforts to find out where Sharon and Phyllis are being held, the truth remains elusive. Everything is meticulously hidden, and every time he feels he is close to finding the key, there is a twist that throws him off track. The ambiguous call. Things become even more complicated when the kidnapper allows Sharon and Phyllis to make a single phone call. It is their only chance to contact the outside world. Sharon, in a situation that is unbearable, decides to call Nick. She tries to tell him what is happening, but her words are distorted by fear and psychological pressure. As Sharon tells her story, Nick still feels that something is wrong. Sharon's account was incomplete, lacking important details that she had to remember, and this only increased Nick's anxiety. He began to compare Sharon's notes with the clues Daniel had provided, and realized something strange. There were coincidences in the events they had witnessed, and everything seemed to be part of a larger plan that he could not see. Nick began to realize that, more than just a kidnapping, there was a deeper conspiracy behind it all. The kidnapper's goal was not money or simple revenge. Rather, his purpose was to test the spirit and weaken the faith of those he had taken. While Sharon and Phyllis endure unimaginable challenges, Nick finds himself in an equally dangerous situation. While tracking down a kidnapper, Nick accidentally encounters a mysterious killer, and in a tense struggle, he is severely injured. The impact knocks him to the ground, the pain quickly disorients him, but he knows that he cannot stop. He must continue to find the truth, not only for the safety of Sharon and Phyllis, but also for the peace of his family. At this point, Nick is no longer a person who simply investigates the case. He has become a person fighting not only for the survival of his loved ones but also for himself, as he realizes that he is in a game where every decision can lead to life or death. Chaos intensifies as the plot continues to unfold. Things seem to become out of control. Sharon and Phyllis continue to confront the kidnapper, solving the puzzles he poses step by step. Each time they solve a puzzle, another challenge awaits them. The tension in the basement grows, and they must use all their wits and tenacity to avoid falling into the villain's trap. Nick, while trying to investigate and rescue, finds himself caught up in a battle not only with time but also with the choices he must make. Can he save both Sharon and Phyllis? Or will he have to face a painful truth about the real enemy? Unpredictable ending. The story is not over yet, and it promises to have many more thrilling situations and life and death decisions. In this battle, not only Nick and his loved ones, but also the audience are caught up in a haunting survival game. Riddles, mysteries, and tough choices will shape the fate of the characters on The Young and the Restless, and there will be only one way to escape. Face the truth and overcome the challenges that life presents. In The Young and the Restless, dramatic stories, with tense situations and complex relationship developments, are always what make viewers unable to take their eyes off the screen. And in this survival battle, Sharon Newman and Phyllis Summers are two characters who will face unforeseen challenges, forcing them to not only fight against external enemies but also face themselves and the complicated relationship between them. The Young and the Restless head writer and executive producer, Josh Griffith, revealed some important details when talking about the survival situation that Sharon and Phyllis will face. These two characters, despite their past conflicts, will be forced to work together in order to survive. But this will not be easy, as it will force them to face their past, the painful moments they have caused each other. This situation is not only a life-or-death battle, but also an opportunity for both Sharon and Phyllis to look back at themselves, to re-evaluate their relationship with each other and their past choices. The beginning of an unpredictable relationship. Sharon and Phyllis have never been close friends. In fact, their relationship has always been full of tension and conflict. Sharon, a gentle and trustworthy woman, always seeks peace, while Phyllis, with her strong personality and decisive character, always finds a way to deal with every situation on her own, although it may not always be in the best way. Their confrontations are full of bitter words, plots to harm each other, and moments that neither of them would like to recall. But in this kidnapping situation, when Sharon and Phyllis are taken to a dark basement and confronted by a mysterious kidnapper, survival becomes the only concern. Despite their conflicting pasts, both women understand that if they do not cooperate, they will not survive. So, against their will, they are forced to work together, starting to search for clues and ways to escape this situation. But in the process, the emotions hidden inside them cannot be simply dismissed. Every step leads them to face the past, the mistakes, the misunderstandings, and the pain they have caused each other. Sharon and Phyllis will have to look back at the decisions that have strained their relationship, and can they forgive each other and move past what happened before to work together in this fight? The situation that Sharon and Phyllis face is not only a physical challenge, but also a mental one. This mysterious kidnapper, with a distorted voice, not only puts them in a difficult situation but also forces them to solve intricate puzzles and their own relationships. Instead of just dealing with external dangers, they must find a way to overcome the fear, hatred, and suspicion that they have had for each other all this time. During their captivity, Sharon and Phyllis are forced to face the dark parts of their souls. Sharon, who has always sought peace, will have to accept truths about herself that she never wanted to face. Phyllis, with her strength and resilience, will have to face the mistakes she made in the past and the consequences of her actions. Each challenge that the kidnapper poses will force them to work together, even though they may not like it. But this is also an opportunity for them to look back at their relationship, to understand that only by working together and supporting each other can they hope to get out of this situation. Nick, intuition and determination. While Sharon and Phyllis struggle with challenges and must work together, Nick Newman, a loving husband and brother, never gives up. After sensing something is wrong with Sharon's disappearance, Nick begins to follow the traces that he believes may lead to the truth. The last time Sharon was kidnapped, Nick had a similar feeling. He couldn't rest easy without knowing where she might be being held. Nick not only follows the traces he discovers, but also begins to look for clues from those around him, like Daniel. He understands that it is only through small details that he can find the truth. But as he realizes that the kidnapper is causing increasingly complicated situations, he begins to worry about Sharon and Phyllis's safety. And when he finally finds out where they are being held, Nick is faced with a painful truth. Bloody turn, a hard choice. When Nick finally gets close to his target and finds Sharon and Phyllis, he discovers an unbelievable situation. Nick can only save one woman in a critical situation. Sharon or Phyllis? He must choose between two people he loves and cares about. But how can he make such a decision? Both Sharon and Phyllis are important women in his life, and each has their own reasons for being saved. Sharon, the person he once loved and built a family with, is still an indispensable part of his heart. But Phyllis, for all her faults and indecisiveness, is also a valuable person in Nick's life. And now, he is faced with an unpredictable choice. How can he decide who to save? This survival game is not just about saving Sharon or Phyllis. It is a story of love, sacrifice, and complicated relationships. As Sharon and Phyllis try to overcome the challenges posed by the kidnapper, Nick is also faced with a difficult decision that he cannot change. Ultimately, this story will not be about who to save, but about the growth of each character, about past mistakes and the changes each must go through. The relationship between Sharon and Phyllis, though tense and full of conflict, will have the opportunity to develop in a new direction. And no matter who Nick chooses, he will face inevitable consequences in this complicated love story. The Young and the Restless is always thought-provoking, and this one is no exception. Dramatic stories always draw viewers into a complex world where small decisions can change lives. The relationship between father and son, life-or-death choices, and dark conspiracies often create tense, suspenseful situations. And this time, the story revolves around Nick Newman, who is faced with life-or-death decisions, while suspicions about Sharon and Phyllis's kidnappers gradually emerge. Victor Newman, a powerful and scheming father, has always had strategies and foresight in life, but this time, he has to face his son, Nick, who does not easily accept his father's interference. When the situation becomes tense, and both Sharon and Phyllis are kidnapped in a mysterious plot, Nick cannot stand still. Despite receiving warnings from Victor, Nick decides to follow his own path, which may lead him to a greater tragedy. Victor Newman has always been the powerful man in the Newman family, not only because he is a successful businessman but also because he has a keen sense of the risks in life. Victor's advice is never useless, but it is not always easy to accept, especially for Nick. His son, despite his intelligence and determination, often disagrees with the way Victor handles matters. And this time, Victor's warnings about the potential dangers of Sharon and Phyllis's kidnapping have fallen on deaf ears. Victor knows that, given the dangers that Sharon and Phyllis face, proceeding without proper preparation could lead to serious consequences. However, Nick cannot sit idly by knowing that the women he loves are in danger. Victor's warnings only make Nick more determined. "I can't let this go," Nick tells his father, oblivious to Victor's doubts and concerns. The tense conversations between Victor and Nick reflect a complicated father-son relationship. While Nick tries to establish his own identity and handle matters on his own, the dark machinations that Victor frequently encounters demonstrate what can happen when he doesn't listen to those more experienced than him. Despite Victor's warnings, Nick is determined to find out the truth behind the kidnapping. He begins to look for clues, and one of the most obvious signs is the appearance of people related to the Newman family's dark past. These developments only heighten Nick's suspicions about who could be behind the incident. Nick continues to investigate and probe for any information related to Sharon and Phyllis, especially when he realizes that there is a larger conspiracy at work. As Nick investigates, he not only uncovers clues, but also realizes that the kidnapping was more than just a simple crime. It may have involved complex calculations, a clear purpose, and may be part of a plan by those who want to undermine the Newman family. The mastermind, the secret unveiled. A large part of the story revolves around determining the identity of the kidnapper, the person behind all of these events. Initially, the villain's identity is kept secret, with his voice distorted, making it difficult to identify. This leaves both the audience and the characters in the story struggling to understand the threat they face. This mystery becomes even more dramatic when the kidnapper not only holds Sharon and Phyllis captive, but also uses them as pawns in a haunting psychological game. The unanswered questions, the elaborate tricks, and the coldness of the kidnapper make not only Sharon and Phyllis but also the viewers fall into a state of tension, waiting for an answer. Each step Nick takes in the investigation raises more and more suspicions, as the truths from the Newman family's past gradually reveal themselves. But one thing is certain, this kidnapper is not a simple character. He has a deep understanding of the Newman family and their weaknesses, and clearly, he has meticulously planned to carry out this plot. Can Nick find him before it's too late? As all the clues gradually connect, Nick discovers the terrible truth: the mastermind behind the kidnapping is no stranger. It involves someone from the Newman family's past, someone Nick could not have expected. And at this moment, when everything becomes clear, Nick must face a painful choice. He can save Sharon or Phyllis, but only one of them.